Imagine this. The skies over Europe, 1944 Allied bombers, are being torn apart by German fighters. The very outcome of World War II hangs in the balance. But then, a new shape appears on the horizon. Sleek, powerful, and deadly. This is the story of the P-51 Mustang, the fighter that became Germany's worst nightmare and the quiet genius who made it all possible. When we think of legendary war machines, we often picture charismatic leaders or daring pilots. But the story of the P-51 begins not on the battlefield, but on the drafting board of a brilliant, yet often overlooked, engineer named Edgar Schmood. Working for North American Aviation, Schmood was a master of his craft, a man who lived and breathed aerodynamics. His vision wasn't just to build another fighter, it was to create the perfect fighter. The clock was ticking. In 1940, the British Royal Air Force was desperate for new aircraft. They came to North American Aviation with a request. The company's president, Dutchkin, made an audacious promise. They could design and build a brand new, superior fighter from scratch in just 120 days. It was an impossible deadline, a gamble that could have ruined the company. But with Schmood leading the design team, the impossible started to seem possible. Working with incredible speed and precision, Schmood and his team created the prototype, the NA-73X, in an astonishing 102 days. This initial version was promising, but it lacked one crucial component: the right engine. It was fast at low altitudes, but struggled higher up, where the real air war was being fought. The plane had potential, but it wasn't a game-changer. Yet. So, what turned this promising airframe into a legend? The answer lies in 5 key design innovations. A symphony of engineering brilliance that set the Mustang apart from everything else in the sky. First, and perhaps most importantly, was the laminar flow wing. Up until this point, most aircraft wings were curved in a way that created turbulence, increasing drag and limiting speed. Schmood, drawing on advanced aerodynamic research, designed a wing that was thinner and shaped differently. This allowed air to flow smoothly, or in a laminar fashion, over a much larger portion of the wing's surface. The result? A massive reduction in drag. This meant the Mustang could fly faster and farther on the same amount of fuel. It was like giving a marathon runner a pair of magic shoes. This wing design was revolutionary, and it became the Mustang's secret weapon for superior speed and efficiency. But a revolutionary wing needs a revolutionary engine to power it. The original Allison engine just wasn't cutting it at high altitudes. The solution came from across the Atlantic, the British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. This wasn't just a simple engine swap. Engineers at the Packard Motor Car Company were tasked with producing a licensed, Americanized version, the V1650 Merlin. Installing this powerful, 2-stage supercharged engine into the Mustang's airframe was an engineering marvel. It was like transplanting the heart of a lion into the body of a cheetah. Suddenly, the P-51 could not only match, but outperform German fighters at the high altitudes where bomber formations were most vulnerable. Now we have a fast plane with a powerful engine. But powerful engines create a lot of heat, and that heat needs to be managed. This brings us to the third innovation: the Mustang's brilliant radiator system. Most planes had radiators that stuck out, creating huge amounts of drag. Schmood, however, implemented a design that harnessed a phenomenon known as the Meredith effect. He placed the radiator in a unique under-fuselage scope. As cold air entered the front of the scoop, it was slowed down, and its pressure increased. This air then passed through the radiator, absorbing heat. The now heated, expanding air was then funneled through a carefully shaped duct and expelled out the back at high velocity. This created a jet of hot air that actually produced a small amount of forward thrust, effectively canceling out the radiator's own drag. It was an incredibly clever piece of engineering that turned a major source of drag into a minor source of propulsion. These first 3 innovations, the wing, the engine, and the radiator, gave the Mustang its incredible performance. But performance means nothing if you run out of fuel before you reach the fight. And this is where the 4th key innovation comes in: its incredible long-range capability. The efficient design already gave it great range, but the P-51 was designed from the ground up to be a long-range escort fighter. With internal fuel tanks and the ability to carry external drop tanks, the Mustang could fly from bases in England all the way to Berlin and back. This was the game changer. Before, the Mustang bombers flew the most dangerous parts of their missions alone. Now, they had a little friend that could stick with them every step of the way, providing a protective shield deep inside enemy territory. Finally, a fighter is only as good as its pilot, and Edgar Schmood understood this deeply. The fifth innovation was the focus on pilot visibility and ergonomics. Early versions had a framed canopy, but the later and most famous D model introduced the iconic bubble canopy. This teardrop-shaped piece of plexiglass gave the pilot a stunning, near 360-degree view, eliminating the dangerous blind spots that plagued other fighters. There was no sneaking up on a P-51. Inside the cockpit, controls were laid out logically and comfortably, reducing pilot fatigue on those long, grueling missions. Schmood knew that a comfortable, confident pilot is a more effective pilot. So, how did all this technology change the war? Before the P-51 arrived in force, the U.S. Air Force was suffering catastrophic losses. Bomber crews had a terrifyingly low chance of completing their tours of duty. The air war over Germany was being lost. Then, the Merlin-powered Mustangs arrived. Suddenly, the hunters became the hunters. German Luftwaffe pilots, used to having their way with the bombers, were now faced with an American fighter that could meet them on their own terms. At any altitude, the Mustangs could outclimb, outrun, and outturn almost anything the Germans could put in the air. The phrase "Germany's worst nightmare" wasn't just propaganda. It was a reality felt by every Luftwaffe pilot. They knew that when they saw the distinctive silhouette of a P-51, they were in for the fight of their lives. The psychological impact was immense. The Mustangs not only protected the bombers, but actively sought out and destroyed German fighters on the ground and in the air. They systematically dismantled the Luftwaffe, fighter by fighter, airfield by airfield. This cleared the skies, allowing Allied bombers to strike at the heart of Germany's war machine with much greater impunity. By D-Day in June 1944, the Allies had achieved near totale air superiority over the beaches of Normandy, a feat that would have been unimaginable without the P-51 Mustang. It truly turned the tide of the air war. The legacy of the P-51 Mustang and its quiet engineer, Edgar Schmood, extends far beyond World War II. The Mustang served in the Korean War and in air forces around the world for decades. More importantly, its design principles, particularly the laminar flowing and the attention to aerodynamic efficiency, became standard practice in aviation. Every modern jetliner you fly in today owes a small debt to the innovations pioneered by the P-51. Mustang stands as a timeless testament to what can be achieved when brilliant engineering meets a pressing need. It's a story of innovation under pressure, of a quiet genius whose work saved countless lives and helped shape the course of history. The P-51 wasn't just a machine of war. It was a masterpiece of design, a symbol of aerial perfection that still captures the imagination of aviation enthusiasts everywhere. It reminds us that sometimes the most powerful weapons aren't the loudest, but the smartest. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into aviation history, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the P-51 Mustang in the comments below. See you next time.